This episode is sponsored by Living Naked, the program designed to help you create a life you no longer want to escape from, where we combine coaching, community, and transformational content to continue your journey beyond alcohol. Stopping drinking was just the first step. We want to show you what's next. If you have found freedom from alcohol and now want lasting peace and control of your mind, emotions, and actions, Living Naked is for you. Join us to learn how to stop self-medicating and stop trying to escape your life and emotions. Shift your mindset and create the life you desire. Gain control of and freedom from limiting thoughts and beliefs. Learn how you can do all of this and more at livingnakedpath.com.
Hi, this is Annie Grace, and welcome to This Naked Mind podcast. And I am here with Sharon. Hi, Sharon.
Hello, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Really good to see you, Annie. It's brilliant. Thank you so much for the kind invitation. I was chuffed to bits to be asked. Thank you.
Oh, it's so great. So, all right. Well, why don't you just we'll get into who you are and what you do and all that stuff at the end. But why don't you, for now, just take us back to the beginning. Where did it all start for you with drinking? When was your first drink and how did it begin?
Oh, crikey. Okay, so if I'm 48 years old now, let's rewind to 14, 15, like every other teenager pretty much in the UK, maybe not everybody, but it was, it's what you did, you know, when you first started going out without parents and sneaking about and stealing, you know, the adults' alcohol, something like that. So, as a teenager, you know, nothing problematic, because that's where it all begins, isn't it? But yeah, that's where it began as a teenager. And then going on into my 20s, working in the radio industry where it was free night out here and free night out there. And you would literally go to the opening of an envelope if it meant free drinks. And then into my 30s and, you know, your tolerance levels get a little bit higher and you drink a bit more. And then I'm cutting a very long story short here. And then into my 40s, where it got to the stage where I was becoming a daily drinker. You know, a bottle of wine a night was completely normal, completely accepted. In many cases, celebrated, because that's what you do when you're a tired, busy working mum and all the rest of it. Yeah. And it just became more and more. And I just thought, this isn't going well. This isn't great. This is actually becoming quite boring and repetitive, and I'd like to make a change.
That's awesome. And so what was it that, you know, when you looked around at the other people in your life, were they on the same sort of trajectory as you, or was it a bit different?
Yeah, massively. I mean, particularly in women my age, you know, in our 40s, most people working with children, always hankering towards the weekend. Yeah, I would say that the group I socialized with, everybody drank, absolutely everybody. But I think was my drinking maybe stood out a bit more was because of the speed at which I would drink and the amounts. And I always say, you know, people say, oh, what was your rock bottom? How bad did it get? And we know why they're saying that, because they want to gauge their own drinking against mine. And I always say, well, there was no sort of howling rock bottom or anything like that. It was becoming too much, drinking too fast and too often, basically, in a nutshell.
And how old were your kids around this time?
So teenagers. So when I stopped, which will be 4 years ago, this coming September, my kids would have been, let me try and work this out, about 18, 14, and just starting high school, something like that. So yeah, three youngish kids. And I think for them, it's been the best thing I've ever done. Absolutely.
That's awesome. So how did you work it out? How did it come about for you?
I've got this book in front of me here. I don't know if you know it, This Naked Mind, written by Annie Grace. I'll tell you the reason I've got this copy in my hand as well in just a moment. I'd done, in the UK, we have dry January and we have sober October. And so every year after, a pretty heavy summer, I would go, right, I'm going to do sober October. I'm going to do sober October. And you know what, Annie, I did it and I really, really enjoyed it. It was a bit of white knuckling and a bit of sort of holding on tight, because I knew that come the 1st of November, I would start drinking again, and to make up for those 30 odd days of sobriety. And I just knew that in order to experience this magic that people spoke about, the joys of sobriety, the life-changing effect it could have on your life, I thought, well, I need to do more than 30 days. I'm going to give myself a shot at 90. So that was my goal. And I thought, just leave me to it. I am doing 90 days. And so if I say I'm going to do something, I'll hands down do it. And as I was approaching 90 days, using every single tool in the alcohol-free toolkit, be it books and podcasts and communities and all the rest of it, I thought, God, these people weren't lying. It's true. You really do start to feel the benefits. And so I thought, right, I'll go for the year. So it was that initial break of 90 days that prompted a year of sobriety. Well, when you get to a year, you've got to go for 2. And then when you hit 2, it's like, well, I'm never, ever, ever going back. I never want to experience a hangover ever again. I never want to be drunk ever, ever again. That's where it all started, with just literally giving myself a break and just seeing where it went.
Oh, that's awesome. And so it was giving yourself a break, but approaching it in a way that you're like actually going to get some education and actually take some steps, rather than kind of how it had gone before. And that just sort of made all the difference.
It made a huge amount of difference. So as I mentioned in the past, I'd done like a month, but not done any work on that. Just literally didn't open wine for a month. I wouldn't dream of buying books or listening to podcasts. But when I went all in for this 90-day break, it was right. I need to join sober communities. I need to find sober people on Instagram. What do I read? How do I do it? And I had this stack of books, and it was This Naked Mind, Control Alcohol, Annie Grace. And I've bought myself another copy, because when I first read your book, it was literally on my bedside table right at the beginning of the journey. And I think I read it twice in the end. I found it quite hard going at first. It was too much for my wine-soaked brain to take in. So I read it, and then I read it again. And I think I had it on audio as well. But when I sort of nailed, do you always nail sobriety? I think, yeah, when I sort of nailed it, and I knew that I was doing all right with it, I passed it on to a friend, and never to be seen again. And that book's been passed on and passed on. So when we chatted to you recently on our podcast a couple of weeks ago, it sparked the whole curiosity again about learning and going back over everything. So I've got another copy here, Annie, which is quite tragic because I put you down as one of the people and one of the books that was truly life-changing, and I thank you for that, because it was just massive at the start of my journey. It really was.
Oh, that's so cool. I love that so much. That's great. And so how did your friends and family respond?
Family absolutely chuffed to bits. Yeah, that they were really, really pleased, really, really supportive, and it's been fantastic. Friends, I don't know. I think people thought I would do this boring break for 90 days and then come bounding back out, drinking rosé wine again, making a fool of myself again, being the drunken idiot. But it wasn't to be. It just absolutely wasn't to be. So I've changed a lot of things, and actually found out the things I really do enjoy doing, because when life doesn't revolve around alcohol, it's amazing what's out there. Completely.
So what are some of those things as opposed to before?
Oh, well, I mean, when I was drinking, my diary and my calendar would revolve around when I could drink, who I could drink with, where I could drink, how much I could drink, how long will it take me to recover from drinking. Well, perhaps if I start drinking again, it'll, make me feel a little bit better. So it was always based around alcohol and bars and pubs and restaurants, or wherever there was a bar at whatever event I'd be going to with the family. Now, oh my God, where to start? Absolutely where to start. I used to mock people that went for afternoon teas and be like, why would you do afternoon tea? It's so dull, it's so boring. Unless there was a bottle of Prosecco with it, it wouldn't be interesting. Now it's one of the absolute highlights, sitting down with your little posh sandwiches and eating cake and drinking lots of coffee. I love getting out up the fells much more than I ever did, doing more activities with the children. I bought a paddleboard during lockdown when we were able to venture, which was terrifying but brilliant. Oh, there's just so much. There's just so much stuff. Meeting up with people that have also given up alcohol, that might be struggling socially, it's just been an absolute revelation. Yeah, it's opened up so many new avenues.
That's so great. And so tell us about how Over the Influence came about.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's one of the most amazing things, I think. Where to start? So Over the Influence began as a podcast around a dining room table in Liverpool. In fact, it's pretty much 2 years ago to the days, or to the week at least. It was just before the pandemic, just before lockdown. And it was with a fellow sort of alcohol-free challenger, my mate Freddie, who's since relocated to New Zealand, but with the power of Zooms, it all still continues. So Freddie was alcohol-free. We were both, on a challenge, both trying it together. And he knew a producer who was great at making podcasts. And we were like, we need to talk about this. We need to sing about sobriety, because we found that a lot of people are ashamed, that they're scared, they're embarrassed, they're worried if they'll ever laugh again. And we were like, we need to make a podcast that sings about sobriety, that says, you know what, it's okay to choose not to drink for whatever reason. You don't need a rock bottom. If there is one, the only way is up. You could just decide, actually, it's no longer serving me. So the podcast came around by us just wanting to share our stories, and also let people know that there is another way. It's actually really good. It's actually really enjoyable. And what happened, Annie, is that our podcast producer, Ben, he drank beer. We didn't seek him out because he was alcohol free or anything like that. And we're like, yeah, he's a brilliant podcast producer, but he sort of spent that much time in mine and Freddie's company, editing us, going, isn't sobriety great? Isn't alcohol-free life brilliant? He dabbled himself, and he's now over 18 months alcohol-free. So
that's so cool.
It's been wonderful.
Yes, I really enjoyed coming on a few weeks ago because it was just so fun. And you guys are such a fun group, and just have fun, which is awesome, which is obviously everything you want people to know about what it's like. It's just can be a lot of fun.
Absolutely. I mean, I think there's this misconception that the minute you stop drinking, life ends. Yeah. And it becomes dull and boring. It's actually the opposite of that. And that's why we're so passionate about singing about alcohol-free life, about choosing not to booze. There's so much else to be doing. It's epic fun, and it's not dull and boring. It's glorious technicolor, as you know.
That's so awesome. So what are sort of your main things that you would say to encourage somebody who is feeling like, yeah, right, it's not going to be fun. It's too big of a jump for me. I can't even believe that might be true.
Give yourself a chance. Give yourself a break. But I'm not talking just a couple of weeks off. Set yourself a personal challenge of 100 days without alcohol. It can be done. It can absolutely be done. But one of my biggest fears, Annie, was, will I ever laugh? Will I ever laugh again? Ever? How will I ever enjoy a night out? How do you do this? But in order to do it and to experience those things, you have to remove booze. And I always say you can't go into it half-baked. The English way of saying it is half-arsed, if I can say that. I don't know if I can say that.
Sure, you can say it, no problem.
or half-assed it might be. Give it your all. You've really got to give it your all. And if after 100 days you decide, yeah, it's not for me, c'est la vie, you've tried it and you've given yourself a best shot. But just know that in my experience, and my podcast hosts, Ben and Freddie as well, we all say exactly the same. And I think just about every other person I've ever spoken to that has changed their relationship with alcohol, it is just hands down the best, most fun, life-changing thing you can do. If it was so brilliant, I'd have gone back to it 3 years ago. But there's too much else to be doing now. It's incredible. And things like this, like chatting to you now on your podcast, I was just a 44-year-old woman that thought, oh, right, I've heard about this Annie Grace and this book, and it's going to change my life. And it does. I'm now chatting to you on your podcast. I've got the job of my dreams that I've worked really, really hard for. And there's just so much crazy good stuff happening. That's not to say it's always easy. You know, we know that it can be difficult, and there's ups and downs that come with not drinking, but it's always worth it. Just know you can absolutely do it, is what I would say.
Well, I love that so much. And then I guess to follow that up, what would you really talk to somebody who is struggling to find their people, right? Like maybe they're going first in their community.
Yeah. That was me. I was sort of the one that went first. Is don't be scared. Don't be scared of doing it. Know that you're not on your own. Some people, for whatever reason, want to keep it private, which is why there are people like us shouting about it on a podcast, putting your heads up and saying it's okay to try sober life. I think that the key that we found, and we've got an online community as well, is connection, and it is just finding people that get it. I always say that there's no greater group of people than a load of sober ex-party animals. It's just brilliant. It's epic fun. But I think, find your people. Don't be scared to join online communities. Find something to be part of. I think it's absolutely vital. And Instagram, particularly over the last few years, that the sober community on there has grown and grown and grown. And I've yet to see anybody dissing it, anybody bad mouthing it. It's just the most supportive place. And that's what we've got as well with our online community. It's brilliant. It's online friendships that are turning into real life friendships, and it's the best thing ever.
Oh, that's so awesome. That's so awesome. And how, I get asked this question a lot, but I'm curious how you would ask it, but how do you talk to your kids about alcohol?
I don't really think I need to talk to them anymore. I think it's about them watching and setting by example. I think had I been still drinking now, I think my kids would be probably the oldest two now are over 18, so they can buy their own alcohol. But if we'd have just rewound a couple of years, I think they would have still been asking me, can I buy this and can I buy that? And actually, it just doesn't come up anymore. They have the odd drink. The eldest is 21. Our daughter's coming up for 19, so they can legally drink should they so wish. Them and their mates, they're just not bothered. They're really not bothered. So there's maybe a few beers in the house if anybody wants one, they come over, but there's no spirits or anything like that, and they just don't talk about it anymore. So I think they've seen. I mean, they say to me, "Mum, you're crackers without it." They say you don't need it. You never did need it, and I convinced myself for God knows how many years. Yes, I did. I needed it to party. I needed it to socialize. I needed it for confidence. It's an absolute lie. It's all bull. Never needed it. And now they can see that it's just not discussed. I think it's the lighthouse effect. They just watch. So yeah.
That's really cool. That's really cool. So you guys talk a lot about like this idea of like a sober rebellion. Can you tell me what you mean by that?
We've just actually been recording tonight, and this is Freddie. He's so He wants to take OTI to the moon. He wants it to just dominate the entire world, not necessarily exactly what we're doing, but the idea of the sober rebellion is by saying, again, it's okay to be sober. It's actually a really rebellious act to go, not buying it anymore, not entertaining it anymore, don't need it anymore, not interested anymore. But at the same time, it's really hard to be the first person, maybe in your friendship group or your social circle, to put your hand up and say, yeah, not doing it. So yeah, Freddie is he's our cheerleader, leading the way on the sober rebellion. We love it. Again, the people within our community are massively on side with it. And if ever they're feeling a bit awkward or a bit, I've got some stick off my mates, and we're like, don't you worry, over the influence, sober rebellion, leading the way. Yeah, it's can be quite a brave thing to do, I think, for many people.
Yeah, for sure. It is. Yeah. And I mean, it's, although things are changing and although there's more and more sober curious people and mindful, people approaching alcohol much more mindfully, it's still very subversive to not drink, for sure. So that's awesome. It's very cool. Well, this has been great. Oh, no, 2 more questions, actually. Okay. First of all, what about the name Over the Influence? What the name of your podcast? How did you guys come up with that?
Again, it was Freddie. It's Freddie with all his great ideas. Well, obviously there's the saying, under the influence. If you are under the influence, you are under the influence of alcohol. And we just wanted to turn it on its head. Basically, you don't need to be under the influence. You can get over that, and you can be over the influence. And that's where that came from. After chewing the fat with a few less brilliant names, shall we say, it was Freddie that came up with that one. So credit where credit is due for our Freddie.
I love that. So, all right. If you were going to go back and talk to yourself who was still struggling, and especially who was taking breaks and then just using them as an excuse to really drink more because she wasn't learning anything new and she certainly wasn't feeling anything new, and you were going to talk to her about what life is like now and kind of encourage her, what would you say?
Oh, how long have I got? How long have I got to talk to my former self? I would say just do it. Don't be scared. Don't be scared of what people think. Do not care what people think. I know that can be really, really difficult at first. Give yourself a chance. You don't need alcohol to have a laugh. You don't need it for confidence. You've got it all there. It's just hidden beneath the booze, and the life-changing possibilities that come your way will take your breath away and continue to do so. But you have to not drink. Literally nothing. Don't drink. No thoughts of moderation. No, just trying to make your stupid set of rules for a weekend. Just stop. Give yourself a break. Try it for 100 days. And if you don't like it, go back to drinking. But I guarantee you will. So yeah.
I love that so much. Yeah. Just try it. Like, find out in your own life. Like, that's why we call the alcohol experiment. Just try it out. Nobody's here to tell you what to do, give you rules, tell you what you should or shouldn't do.
Absolutely.
Nobody's here to distill your entire being to whether you drink or not. That can be relatively irrelevant, but just give it a try. That's awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. I've yet to meet a single person that's not enjoyed it. It's life-changing. It's brilliant.
I love that so much. Well, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your story. Is there anything else you want to share?
I just want to say thank you for the opportunity. I think that the more people that sing about sobriety, and you don't even have to use the word sober, it can just be a choice of deciding to remove alcohol from your life. I think there's just so many labels that come with it, and if we can just say, I'm not drinking for whatever reason, leave people to it, let them crack on. But just know, I know I sound like a stuck record, it really is life-changing. I wouldn't be sitting here chatting to you now if I hadn't stopped drinking nearly 4 years ago, Annie. So thank you very much.
Oh, I'm so glad. That's awesome. All right. Well, thank you. Have a great day.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Annie.
Hey, Coach Scott here. I have a question for you. Have you found freedom from alcohol, but still find yourself trying to escape your life? Do you kind of feel like, all right, I did that, so now what? Are you craving joy and happiness? Do you have this feeling that you're meant for something more? Are you ready to start living a life you love? I know exactly how that feels. The same thing happened to me after I stopped drinking. I knew there was more for me, and I found it. You can too. That's why we created the Living Naked membership, because I don't want you to have to go through the next part of your journey alone. We want you to live a life where you are in control and at peace. You deserve it. Find out if Living Naked is perfect for you at livingnakedpath.com. And as always, rate, review, and subscribe to this podcast, as it truly helps the message reach somebody who might need to hear it today.